What's up, Brandon Gamers? This is DC Green bringing you another episode of Game of Thrones. I'm actually doing this at a reasonable time during the day. I got my door open, displaying the old GoldenEye poster, because I don't have to have it closed so that I don't disturb my roommate, because it's not like 2 a.m. Even though it feels like 2 a.m., I'm super tired. I literally got like 4 hours of sleep. I woke up because I was excited. Like I read like all the comments from like all the other videos last night before I went to bed, and then I went to sleep and then woke up and I was just so excited to make the video that I didn't even go back to sleep. I just want you to know that I read all the comments and I take everything that you guys say to heart. And one of the comments that really stood out to me, I'm going to give a shout out to this guy. His name is Entropic NZ. He's written the most touching comment so far. Like, this is what got me amped up last night, and this is what woke me up in the morning and made me so just pumped to do this. His comment says, the amount of effort you're putting in this series is jaw-dropping, and I hope that everyone watching is able to appreciate this. By the sound of it, you've been willing to give up big chunks of time and put yourself outside of your normal comfort zone to provide content, both info for the vids and with getting the mousepad signed, which isn't something that many people are willing to do. Production value will improve with time and experience. Fantastic job, bro. Keep it up. This is the reason that I do this for you guys, because you guys are fans and you deserve content, and I just want to let you know that you guys, you get what you give. And so, Entropic Z, I'm letting you know, I went out and bought you a $25 RP card, and that will be in your inbox before this video is even up on YouTube, because that's how much this means to me. Because this is Game of Thrones Episode 4, and that's just the beginning. We still got MLG finals to cover, more information about mousepads, and a special video at the end. So what's up, son? Alright, what's up, Brandon Gamers? I hope you're all pumped up after that intro, because I know that I am. The main things I'm going to be going over this episode are all 6 finals matches of TSM versus CLGNA, going over the picks and bans, and also what they did in the game that affected the outcome, regardless of whether I predicted who was going to win or not based on picks and bans. I'm also going to give you the final details on the mousepad and hat giveaway, because I'm going to be announcing the winners in the next video. And also, someone commented asking to know more about the Own3D after party that I went to, where I had dinner with a lot of the pros and things like that, and I don't want to make the video too long, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another video, and my hand hurts from doing this. I'm going to make another video and include the link for that at the end of this one, because it's going to be like unlisted, because I don't want to make the video too long. So it's going to be optional if you'd like to hear about that. With all that being said, let's jump right into the analysis. Okay, so game 1, TSM banned Alistar, Soraka, Urgot, and Counter Logic Gaming banned out Kennen, Vladimir, Morg. These are all really solid picks. I know Chaucer is like an amazing Alistar. Urgot's just one of those guys you ban right now, and Counter Logic Gaming is definitely aware of TSM's favor of running Kennen and Vlad double AP. TSM had first pick, and they first picked Janna, which is a really good pick, because she's, after you ban out Alistar and Soraka, she's pretty much the best support that you can run. So that's a good strategy by them to kind of pigeonhole that pick. And picking your support is also like a really good first pick, because you don't give enough information to the other team to counterpick you in any sort of way. So then when it got passed to CLG, they immediately picked Shen and Nautilus. Now, I think this is really bad on their part. And it definitely comes down to Hotshot's crutch on Nautilus and their overvaluing of Shen. And these are bad picks because, number one, you told them, like, what kind of jungler you have. He's slow. He's got good ganks, but he's going to be slow. And he's, like, susceptible to counter ganking. And you can most of the time gank before he can. And you've also just said, we've got Shen, counterpick Shen. Now, not a lot of people know how to counterpick Shen, but TSM does, which they'll do later in the match. So, I didn't like those picks. I thought that was really foolish. I think that as soon as TSM picked Janna, they should have picked an AD that they knew was going to work against Janna, and they should have just picked Graves, because that's what TSM wants to run. Chaos has been favoring Graves every game. They should have picked Graves. I know Double Lift can run Graves, and they should have just done that, but they didn't. So, anyways, they pass it back to TSM, and they pick Graves and Nocturne. So, there you go. Perfect counter to Nautilus. They're like, we're going to take Nocturne. He's a fast clearer. He's a good ganker. Even before 6, we're just going to wreck you, and it's going to be terrible. Right? And then they pick Graves, because that's what they wanted. They wanted Janna Graves. So they got it. And then they're just like, okay, your move. And CLG picked Corki Galio, which I don't really like at all. I don't see the synergy in that pick. I think that Corki is like a decent laner against Graves, I suppose, because they both kind of have nukes. But to be honest, having Shen and Nautilus, they should have just ran like a Protect the Kog'Maw comp and probably gone with Nunu. I think that might have just been a little bit better, just in the long run. I don't know how he would have fared in lane, but Double Lift is a fantastic AD bottom, and he can out CS anything. Through all these series, you'll see he pretty much keeps with Chaos, even when he gets outpicked. Then it gets passed back to TSM, and they go, hey, we know that Kayle counters Shen, so let's pick Kayle. And then we also have this really gimmicky thing that we like to do where we run Karthus with Kayle, because you can just go in and then get invincible and then suicide. It's kind of like picking Yorick, but it's a little bit better, because I think that Yorick doesn't beat Shen in lane. He probably just, goes toe-to-toe with him. But they get the same utility, and they get to stomp Shen out in lane by picking Kayle. And this was a really smart pick, and it definitely pays dividends throughout the match. In this clip of Game 1, we can see that because top lane got counterpicked so heavily, that CLG is forced to babysit Shen. Nautilus comes top numerous times during the match. This is actually the second time that Ryze teleports top to try and gank. And they have to work so hard to gank top lane that they get punished in other ways throughout the entire match. So you can see that TSM takes Dragon. While they're taking Dragon, Karthus pushes middle because Ryze isn't there. They get Dragon, they get a middle tower, and then they get the second middle tower. So they get 3 global objectives, and all CLG gets is a gank top and the tower. So it's evident that the counter pick worked, and CLG is just hemorrhaging from top lane, and because that they get put behind from plays such as this, they just never catch up, and TSM just snowballs to victory. TSM wins Game 1, and we're on to Game 2. CLG has first pick, and they decide to ban out Vladimir, Nocturne, and Kennen, while solo mid bans out Alistar, Urgot, and Nidalee. CLG first picks Shen, and again, I don't agree with this. I think that they put way too much value in Shen, and because they pick Shen, TSM is able to pick Nautilus and dictate that Shen is now in the jungle, because they know that Hotshot GG can really only jungle Shen, Nautilus, and Nocturne's banned. So by picking Nautilus, they say, you got Shen, you wanted to run him top, now you have to run him in the jungle. And the Nautilus pick is also a good pick because Shen's a pretty slow jungler. So that's fine. They're like, we'll take Nautilus, you take Shen, and we'll just see how this pans out. So that worked perfectly for TSM. They also got to pick Graves, which obviously they wanted. When it goes back to CLG, I think that this was a super unorthodox pick, Leona and Ezreal. Now, I was thinking the Leona pick isn't that bad, because you're going to want to run something that's just going to kill Graves, because you need to shut him down. I thought the Leona was a good pick. I wasn't very impressed with the Ezreal pick, because out of all the heroes that synergize best with Leona to kill someone like Graves, you need a hero that can proc a lot of her sunlight. And the best suited for that after Graves is Corki, because of Gatling Gun. But they decided to pick Ezreal, which I thought was really, really, really risky and foolish. They ended up switching lanes in the game, and I don't know if that was planned from the beginning. But had they not done that, things would have been way differently, and I think that it would have cost them the game. When it comes back to TSM, they pick Janna Kayle. Now, the Kayle pick wasn't very good because they know that they forced Shen into the jungle, or at least I hope that they know that. I was able to decipher that, so I'm hoping that players of their caliber would have been able to make that distinction as well. Seeing this, CLG says, okay, they're going to do the Kayle cart this thing again. CLG picks Yorick and Cassiopeia because they go, we'll just get a hyper AP carry also that we can make invincible for a certain amount of, well, not invincible, but you know, when you kill them, they don't really kill them for a certain amount of time, and it'll just be a race to the finish, and we'll just see who gets there first. And I thought that was smart, but knowing that they were gonna pick Karthus, like, I didn't really like that decision. I think they could have picked Rise again if they wanted to, or I would have picked something like Ari, something that's actually gonna fight Karthus, because we all know Reginald just wants to farm. He just wants to farm all game, and he's really, really good at it. So they needed to pick something that I think is gonna shut down Karthus more. Now, I was sitting with Prawley, who is the AP carry for Legion, when we were watching this game, and I said that Cassiopeia was a bad pick, and he said that Cassiopeia counters Karthus. I think that she counters Karthus if it's a bad player, but if it's someone like Reginald, they're still going to be able to farm despite what you're doing, and that's exactly what happened. Okay, so in this clip we have kind of an inverse of game 1, whereas TSM's top lane starts losing terribly. CLG sends Leona and Ezreal top to fight against Kayle. So to respond to this, Nautilus starts to babysit top. Ezreal gets first blood on him. He dies. They keep sending people top to try and help Kayle. Ezreal's getting fed. Eventually Janna goes up there. He gets more kills, etc. And it just looks really bad for TSM. The important thing to note, though, is that Karthus is just happily farming in middle. And he uses Requiem, as shown in the video, to pick up random kills here and there in conjunction with him maintaining his farm. Cassiopeia has the exact same amount of farm, but at this point, Karthus is going to be scarier because his ultimate guarantees to hit all 5 people. He doesn't have to be cautious about dying, etc. Here we'll see another clip of him picking up a kill with Requiem. Alright, now, this is the middle of the game, and this is really where everything goes downhill for TSM. Lack of communication on who to focus fire causes them to really botch this fight. Reginald catches Yorick with a perfect wall and hits him with like 3 lay wastes, which cause him to, I don't know, get around 70-60% health. While this is happening, Nautilus flashes in and dredgelines onto Ezreal and then uses his ultimate. So now you have damage split amongst 2 targets. Then that causes Graves to go in on Ezreal as well. Because of this miscommunication of focus fire, TSM fails to pick up a really easy kill on Yorick. Now Ezreal almost dies and gets ulted by Yorick, and while this is happening, Cassiopeia flashes in and gets a really good stun, and Ezreal ends up picking up a double kill. The double kill causes TSM to retreat into the river, but they hang around Dragon too long, thinking that CLG is going to retreat and they can pick it up. This is really greedy. Through this, Ezreal picks up 3 more kills, giving him an unofficial pentakill. The baffling thing is why TSM stuck around in the first place. All they had was Graves, Nautilus, and Kayle, and Kale's very underfarmed at this point. So this was a really foolish play on their part, and from here the game snowballs into CLG's favor, and it takes it to a game 3. In game 3, TSM banned again Alistar, Urgot, and Yorick, while CLG kept up their bans with Vladimir, Kennen, and Nocturne. TSM had first pick, and as always, they grabbed Janna. CLG responded to this by grabbing Soraka and Shen. These picks seem fine. I feel like Soraka's a pretty strong pick against Janna, depending on what AD you pair her with. If you can survive the first few levels, I feel like once you get level 3 with Soraka against Janna, you can basically just sustain out the lane. And the Shen pick seems warranted. CLG had some good success last game with split pushing, and I think Hotshot GG probably feels comfortable playing Shen. And the comfort level is definitely something to factor, considering that they need to win this game in order to push it into a second best of 3. TSM's then pass priority, and they grab Ashe and Mundo. I don't like the Ashe pick so early, especially when the opposing team hasn't chosen a ranged AD. Ashe has a really weak early game, and she's not super stellar with Janna either. Rivington loves to comment on the fact that you can shield her and then open up with a crit, but more often than not, that's not going to happen. The priority of last hitting is more important than the priority of doing damage to your opponent. The Mundo pick seemed fine against Shen because he's got a fast clear time. I don't really know the correct situations in which one picks Mundo jungle, but I know that Odd One's good Mundo, and they must have picked it for a reason, probably for follow-up initiation with Ashe. So this seems like a fine pick. CLG gains priority again, and they picked Malphite and Kog'Maw. I think X-Hazard just picked Malphite because he's a very solid pick against anything top lane right now. He seems to go even with most top lanes and even beat a couple. The Kog'Maw pick, I feel, was CLG keeping their options open, saying we know Kog'Maw beats Ashe, but depending on what they pick middle, we could also run AP Cog. TSM responds by going Olaf Morgana, which are both strong picks. Dyrus is very comfortable on Olaf, and Reginald is also very good Morgana. They pass it back to CLG, and Big Fat GG locks in Ahri. I think that CLG's team has more synergy. I think the Malphite plus Shen ultimate with Ahri diving is much stronger than the initiation of the Ashe arrow and the Morgana ultimate. Plus, with such a tanky team, Soraka will go a long way for CLG. When the game starts, TSM decides to swap lanes and send Ashe, Janna top against Malphite, and Olaf bottom versus Kog'Maw and Soraka. I think this is a decent plan because Soraka is not an aggressive support. And so if you send somebody bottom versus a ranged AD Soraka lane, they can normally survive the early levels decently well enough to maintain a good enough CS score. The casters commented a lot that Olaf and Ashe switched lanes too quickly, but to be honest, that's completely wrong. Once Olaf got back into the Malphite lane, Malphite was much more hindered than Olaf was, and Olaf was able to dictate the pace of his lane. He killed Malphite a numerous amount of times, and I think the only time that Malphite really got a breather was when he got a gank from Shen. This was TSM's game to win, and the game really came to a head at the 22-minute mark when they tried to get Dragon. TSM successfully got the Dragon, and then Dyrus kind of baited the team into a fight. Unfortunately, Janna didn't just ultimate and kind of reset everything so TSM could retreat. They got into a really horrific fight, and CLG killed 3 people. The game up until this point had been a farm fest, so this was really a big turning point. It then became evident that TSM was desperate to close out this best of 3 so that they could win and go home, and they did a very, very sloppy Baron at 27 minutes. The reason that I say this is sloppy is because they had an Oracle, and they walked past 2 wards of CLG and didn't bother to clear them out. This was a risky play by TSM, but they knew that Hotshot GG had just gone back to base, and so there was no threat of an enemy smite. They tunnel visioned Baron and CLG engaged, resulting not only in a Baron steal for CLG, but also 4 deaths for TSM. This drastic swing in tempo caused CLG to snowball from here on out, and it took it into the second best of 3. In Game 4, or Game 1 of the second best of 3, we see TSM with first pick, and they ban out Alistar, Shen, and Soraka. CLG bans out Kennen, Vladimir, and Urgot. TSM first picks Janna, as they normally do. CLG responds by choosing Nocturne and Taric. I have some gripes with this, as I think that picking a support to counter a support is a very poor way to go about things. I think if anything, if you want to counter the opposing support, you do it by picking a ranged AD. Again, this is another missed opportunity for CLG to steal Graves away from TSM. When TSM is passed back priority, they pick Graves and Nautilus. The Nautilus pick is fine because CLG has already picked their jungler. TSM can pick it freely without opening up any of their other lanes to counter picks. When CLG is given priority, they pick Corki and Cassiopeia. Both fine picks. Taric Corki should be able to hold up against Janna Graves, while Cassiopeia is a strong enough mid that whatever TSM picks, she should be able to handle. For their final picks, TSM rounds out their roster with their favorite combo of Karthus and Kayle. CLG responds by picking Yorick again, hoping to out-gimmick TSM. With all the lanes pretty evenly matched in Game 4, it really boils down to a farm fest, and turns into one of those games that's dictated by a sloppy Dragon attempt. While CLG tries to kill Dragon, TSM engages on them. Not only do they steal the Dragon, but they bait CLG into a really terrible fight, where they go 4-2. This starts a snowball for TSM, and despite them having similar comps with Yorick and Kayle, Kayle's utility starts to outshine Yorick's tankiness and damage. Also, his poor itemization choices, getting things such as Manimune as opposed to Aegis to help his team, cause him to dig his grave even deeper. In a very unfortunate fight for CLG, Graves manages to pick up a quadra kill, and TSM secures the victory shortly after. In Game 5, CLG gets first pick, and they ban out Ken, Vladimir, and Nocturne, their staple bans for the tournament. TSM bans Alistar, Shen, and Urgot. CLG first picks Nautilus, and again I have problems with this because they give TSM another opportunity to get Graves. When TSM is past priority, they pick Soraka and Graves. CLG responds by picking Vayne Sona. The reason they do this is because they know that Soraka is much weaker in terms of lane survivability. So they go with a composition that's more focused on dealing damage. Passing it back to TSM, they pick Maokai and Karthus. Reginald seems to be favoring Karthus in this series, and CLG is doing nothing to pick it against him, so why not? While also providing great utility with his ultimate and just as much gank potential with his snare and knockback. When CLG is given priority, they know that Reginald is going to farm on Karthus all game. So Big Fat GG picks Kassadin because he knows that he can farm just as well as Reginald can on Karthus, and the dedication of Reginald's farming capabilities will keep him from being harassed out of lane. Also, once he's level 6, Maokai's ganks will become very risky, as Twisted Advance coupled with Rift Walk can potentially put him in tower range every single time. Hazard picks up Nidalee as it's his main champion, and one he feels most comfortable with. When TSM is passed back priority, Dyrus picks up Jax. He knows that Jax will scale better into the late game and also be able to lane effectively against Nidalee. Game 2 is TSM's game to win. Everything is going smoothly for them, as all their lanes are winning in farm, and they're ahead in kills. They decide to invade CLG's jungle and take blue, and then set up for a Baron. However, a poor decision by Dyrus to teleport to a ward that's in the middle of 4 CLG members causes TSM to get baited into a really sticky fight. They lose 3 people right away to CLG, and CLG picks up Baron, also killing the odd one who tries to smite steal to prevent the game from snowballing out of control. After this fails, the game does exactly that. The Baron steal puts CLG's champions at critical mass. Vayne and Kassadin at this point are both very farmed, and also have the added benefit of Sona's auras plus an Aegis aura coming off of Nautilus. They are able to survive any attacks presented by TSM and take Game 2, bringing this series to an all-important Game 3. Game 6, the final game of the finals. TSM was first pick. They ban Alistar, Shen, and Soraka, while CLG bans Kennen, Vlad, and Urgot. TSM first picks Janna. CLG picks Nautilus and Graves, finally deciding to take Graves from TSM, and securing Nautilus for Hotshot. TSM responds by picking Corki and Nocturne, both being good picks in response to Nautilus and Graves. When Counter Logic Gaming is given priority again, they pick Nidalee and Sona, and it looks as if they're going for the same composition they were going for last game. TSM respond by picking Karthus and Kayle. Overall, I don't think that these were very wise picks by CLG, because I think that they won last game based on a technicality. I don't think that Kassadin counters Karthus, and I don't think that Nidalee is going to be as good as Kayle, just as she wasn't as good as Jax last game. Out of the picks and bans, this looks like it's going to be a really hard game for CLG to win. This game had a pretty rough start for CLG, with Hazard giving up first blood within the first few minutes of the game. However, this really didn't have that adverse of an effect on why the game played out the way that it did. The real reason that CLG had such a tough time this game was because the lane swaps that TSM initiated. Putting Kayle up against Kassadin ensured that he wouldn't get any farm, and putting Karthus up against Nidalee, whether it be a wash or whether Karthus get a little less farm than he's accustomed to, was a good enough trade-off for TSM. Karthus has enough utility through his passive that he's always going to be able to do a set amount of damage, so any kind of farm is good regardless. As seen in all other games, Karthus diligently farmed his lane and picked up kills left and right across the map with Requiem. This made him a force to be reckoned with all throughout the game. In the middle of the game, CLG decided to go clear wards around Baron, but they went there without their main AD carry Graves. TSM was able to catch them off guard and pick off Sona right away, and Corki was able to pick off Graves when he was trying to come help his team. In turn, TSM used this as an opportunity to take Baron. The remaining members of CLG tried to stop TSM, but failed. However, they did manage to bait Nocturne out of the pit, and Hotshot GG on Nautilus was able to come in and smite steal Baron. Despite the steal, this wasn't enough to put CLG back into the game because TSM was very far ahead at this point due to their lane swaps, and CLG not reacting to those lane swaps in the beginning of the game. TSM slowly press their advantage and take outer towers while they wait for the next Baron to respawn. Once it does, they end up catching CLG out again and they get Baron, and eventually it's too much for CLG to handle, and TSM wins the game and takes first place at MLG Anaheim. Alright, so there you have it. All 6 games with my opinion and my analysis on how everything panned out. All in all 6 games were really exciting to watch. And to be honest, I think CLG just dropped the ball in Game 3 with their inferior picks. I think they could have picked a better top, and I think they could have played a hero middle that is better against Karthus and Kassadin. Granted, the pick only didn't work because of the lane swaps, but had they picked some kind of ranged mage, I don't think that would have been as big of a problem. I hope you all enjoyed that. That was 6 games covered in less time than it takes to watch one game. I hope that you feel like I gave adequate analysis of everything that was covered, and hopefully this brings a deeper understanding into what goes on in the minds of pro players. I do want to make the distinction that I'm not a pro player. Right now I have a solo queue rating of about 1650. One time I got to 1900, but I lost that pretty fast. And that's why I'm back at 1650. I just play enough and feel like I have a philosophical understanding of this game, which doesn't necessarily give me authority to make these kind of claims, but gives me the ability to discuss them. Not everything I say here I think is 100% correct with what pros might think, but it gives you guys something to think about. I also wanted to add a little segment into this video about why I think Graves is so powerful, because I have been giving him praise all throughout my past videos, and also TSM valued him very highly. So I took this clip from Game 3. It was double lift playing Graves, but Hazard was about to get ganked, and as you can see right here, the smoke screen that Graves puts down completely stops the gank, and that just shows you how powerful that smoke screen is. Not only does it take up the entire channel of the jungle, but it cuts off the vision and slows the enemy down, and if they wander into it, it can actually turn the fight into your favor, because you'll be able to capitalize on them being disoriented. Okay, so now that you've made it this far, the rest of you are wondering, hey, what are we going to do about these mouse pads? Well, I decided to change something up. In order to win, you're going to need to be subscribed to the Reign of Gaming YouTube channel. While I do this for you guys, it is also my job to promote the channel and get more subscribers so that we can continue making money off of it, and Curse can afford to throw tournaments like the Reign of Gaming International Invitational and things like that. I've made it pretty easy for you. I've included a subscribe button at the beginning of every video. There's also annotations that will take you to my past videos, so you can go on there and comment to increase your chances to win the mouse pads. For anyone that still doesn't understand by now, in order to win, you need to comment on the videos and be subscribed to the channel. The more videos that you comment on, and there's 4 now, the better chances you have of winning. Also, if you happen to comment on the Reign of Gaming article that led you to this video, I will count that. But I will not count if you commented on the article and on the video. I will only count you once. Episode 5 will feature me showing how I did the randomization and selected the winners, and I will probably have that video out sometime next week, as GESL is this weekend, and I imagine that there's going to be enough matches for me to do a proper episode. Also, for anyone interested in meeting me, I will be at the Curse meet and greet at the GameStop in Anaheim, which is going to be on June 14th, which is a Wednesday, and it's between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. So if you're there, say hi. I'll give you a signature or something if that's what you want, and yeah, maybe I'll kiss your baby. Finally, for the one person in the comments that asked to hear more about the Own 3D after party that I went to, I did make a video. It is unlisted, so you're only going to be able to get to it with the link that I'm providing below. And if you want to watch that, go ahead. It's a bit more of a personal video. I give you guys a tour of my lovely apartment, as well as tell you what happened, and it's nice and nerdy and awkward, and it's great. So check that out if you'd like. There's also a chance there to win a t-shirt from me if you're so interested. Please let me know in the comments. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Game of Thrones. Remember, this is only episode 4, and this episode is going to set the standard for the quality of content that I bring you guys in the future. So if you're happy with what you see, this is what you're going to get every single time. I'm not always going to do 6 games. I only did it on this rare occasion because of MLG being 6 games, but I will do enough. I also want to try and keep the episodes down to I would say under 20 minutes, because 20 minutes is about the average length of a TV channel, and I find that I'm probably a little bit more entertaining than some things on TV. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave comments and feedback. I love to read it, and make sure you subscribe so that you get updated every single time about new episodes of Game of Thrones. You can also like us on Facebook at Reign of Gaming, and you will also get updated there every time a new article is posted on Reign of Gaming, including these. Thank you guys for your support, and I hope you enjoyed it.